Okay, so Mark, lovely to see you. And we're going to talk about what we're currently calling masterclasses, which is this idea of running sessions for that layer in an organization, which is one or two layers below Exco. And what we know about conventional organizations is that that's very often where silos form. And if you want to be transformational in an organization, you need that layer to collaborate with one another and to trust each other.
Yeah, I mean, completely. I mean, they're absolutely kind of key in this. And so very happy to talk about, what we've done with previous clients and, how we've managed to bring that about.
So I think in terms of so structurally what we've done is we've run these as face-to-face sessions, typically with quite a lot of people, 50, 60, 70, 100 people. Typically run with a cadence of sort of once a quarter type sessions. And so what I wanted to really go through with you is kind of what kind of content are we delivering with that audience?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, face to face, yes. We have done one completely virtually as well. But yes, in the same way, a modular format that's covering a number of different topics as we go through. And which is really a condensed version of what Holos is all about.
Yeah, and I think the other bit is that we try to make as much of the content as possible highly interactive, so that you've got these people working with each other, getting to know each other better, and building trust. So for example, we might well cover the authentic leadership stuff, psychological safety, radical candor, influencing skills. What other stuff would we put in there?
Well, I think some key pieces with that level is to get them to stick their head above the parapet and do some horizon scanning. Yeah. And one way we do that is using the 3 horizons model. Yeah. 3 horizons is really simple. There is always 3 horizons. There's the horizon we're in, and it's often a business model that we've been running for quite a while. There is an emerging horizon, which is what is attempting to replace that model, often filled with entrepreneurs that are trying different models out, really trying to disrupt the first horizon. That's what kind of happens in Horizon 2, a lot of experimentation. Some of that works, some of that doesn't. And then Horizon 3 is often a fundamentally different way of doing what it is that we do in Horizon 1. Eventually, Horizon 2, something will emerge from that becomes dominant. Yeah. A great example of this is how we used to watch films. Horizon 1 was the kind of blockbuster model. We used to go down the road and rent a video. It got replaced by CDs being sent to your address by people like Love Film. But interesting enough, that didn't last forever, because technology came along, and actually what happened is that Amazon bought Love Film, and they launched streaming of films. And so streaming films at home, instead of going down the road and renting a video cassette, is a fundamentally different way of doing it. So there's an idea of what 3 horizons is all about.
And when we did that with Specsavers, we ran that as a sort of debrief of the Megatrends session, for example, and that worked quite nicely. And then another thing that we've done with that level is OSHRI, run OSHRI simulations with big numbers of people. Yeah. So that's always quite interesting.
Well, OSHRI is a heat experience, and people learn by immersing them in what really happens in organizations. And Barry Oshry talks about this. Wherever you're put in an organization, you'll start responding in that way. If you're put in a very senior position, you'll feel like you've got to come up with all the answers, and you'll be quite stressed about that and taking on that responsibility. In the middle of the organization, you tend to be waiting for those above to come up with all the answers, and you're also trying to keep those below happy. And those below and on the front line are united in their struggle. You know, they're quite often disengaged. They've quite often got the answers, but no one's engaging them in that. And that's a very natural way for people to behave in an organization. And so what we do is we immerse them in a case study that brings that to life. And then we talk about, well, what would you do differently to break that down? And how you know do things differently is the senior leaders need to let go. They need to engage the middle management, and middle management need to engage the front line, because often the answers are on the front line. So by immersing them in a heat experience, they get to experience that, and it works really well.
It does. And then another one that I did recently was one where we provided Lego kits for everyone. And we, as usual with these things, we sort of tied one hand behind their back and gave them made it really challenging for them. But what was really interesting was how leadership came to the fore in that exercise, because we asked them to form teams and to really lead the teams and to use all of that kind of thing. So I think there's lots of creative ways that you can get this message across and to build that trust and psychological safety. Because talk a bit more about psychological safety, because we did that as well, didn't we?
Yeah, no, look, I mean, psychological safety is a hot topic for me, and building it is really, really important to get people collaborating. And it's interesting, quite often in organizations, they think collaboration is about getting people together to share best practice. But the trouble is with sharing best practice is no one wants to listen to what others have done really well and are gloating about. So interestingly enough, when we're working with groups to build psychological safety, we get them sharing best problems, being vulnerable, admitting that actually they haven't got all the answers or they haven't managed to solve everything. And in doing so, that lets others in to kind of help them with that. So, those are some of the things that we do when we're building psychological safety. It is kind of turn some of the old ways of doing things on their heads.
Yeah, and then I mean we've also Red and Black works really well when we're exploring trust and the trust equation.
Sure.
With that level. So I mean, if you're familiar with the content we use for team effectiveness, it's quite a lot of it's the same kind of content, but I would say there's some differences because it's this much bigger audience, and because you really want to get this audience experimenting with collaboration with each other in lots of different ways. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mark. And that's a really lovely summary and insight into what we do in these masterclass exercises.